Hey friends, welcome back to the Godspeed Garage. In this episode, we are finally going to get chopping up the frame for the Dodge Podge. So I've been measuring like crazy, trying to figure out where the best spot to cut, locations, all that sort of stuff. I'm trying to follow the old adage of measure twice, cut once, measure once, however it goes. As you can see, I've marked up the frame in several places, and I've changed the plan on how I want to do this several times. But I think I've narrowed it down to what I actually want to do. Now, it's important to keep a written record of all your measurements for what you want to do. Paper's cheap, cardboard's cheap. Cutting and then having to redo all that work after you figure out it's not right is not fun. So I made a list here on this cardboard because I know myself and I know I will never remember. I always say I will, but if I don't write it down, I'll never remember. When I first started working on this thing and I had it on the car dolly, I measured from the ground to the bottoms of the rear windows, and it was about 40 inches, and I kind of liked how low it was to the ground. I think it was the perfect height for what I want. So in order for this to be 40 inches off the ground from the bottom of the rear windows, if we measure from the bottom of the rear windows to the bottom of the body, we're right at about 29.5 inches, maybe closer to 29. The bottom of this flange. This flange here originally is what bolted to the frame. Cool thing about these old Dodges is they were naturally channeled over the frame, and the factory frame actually did have a bit of a Z over the rear end. So if we're at 29.5 inches from the bottom of the rear windows to the bottom of this flange down here, then I want to measure up to the bottom of my angle iron I welded in there for the floor, and as you can see, that's about 2.5 inches. Since I want to use 1/2-inch square tubing as the base for the floor, I have to subtract 1/2 inch from that. So that's 27 inches to the top of where the body is going to mount to the frame, which means from the top of the frame to the ground is about 13 inches for me to achieve 40 inches from the bottom of the rear windows to the ground. Then you have to subtract the width of your frame rails. As you can see, those are about 6 7/8 inches tall. And if I subtract 2 inches from that for the body to go over the frame, that's 4 7/8 inches, we'll call it 5 inches, of frame that's going to be visible, which means that's going to be 8 inches off the ground, which isn't the end of the world. I just don't know if I like having the frame exposed. I guess it'll kind of look like a highboy. So some more head scratching. I got to make a decision because everything I do is going to be based off of that ground height. Okay, so I think I got it figured out. See, sometimes you just got to go walk away, do a little head scratching, and make a plan. So my local steel supplier here has 4x2 120 wall tubing. So decision made. I got that stuff ordered up. It should be here soon. And that means that I'm going to have about 2 inches of frame rail, give or take, sticking out from the bottom of the body. But that also means that I can actually get it lower on the ground, because I actually do think 8 inches off the ground is plenty of clearance without it being airbagged or anything. If I want to slam it to the ground, I can always do that. So I'm happy with that. We'll make it work. Next thing to do is strip off these cross members and start cutting the frame. So I kind of ran into a little bit of an issue. Back here I did a measurement from the ground to the bottom of the frame. It's supposed to be 23 inches to this point right here on the bottom, and it's actually closer to 23.25. But if I go over to the other side, we're right at 23. So I'm off on the passenger side by about 1/4 inch. Check this level here. Is dead on, pretty much right in the middle. So I'm pretty confident my floor is level. And so, all right, I got the back end all braced up, and I got this X bracing going on in here just to keep the frame from going side to side and pinching in when I cut it off from up front here. And notice here, we're pretty exact on level Just to double check it, I put another level on top. The problem with that was this brace I put down here had a whole bunch of crap up underneath it that I didn't grind smooth. That's totally my fault. So it made this side a little higher than the driver's side over there. My remedy for that was just to let a little bit of air out of the tire, and that leveled it out. So no big deal. At least we're all level and square now. Now I gotta brace this part up here, and then I'll cut this section off right here. Okay, so let me show you what's going on here. So I couldn't find my plumb bob. It somehow grew legs and walked off. I probably put it in a safe place, which happens every time I clean my shop. I can't find anything. So anyway, I made my own plumb bob out of a old step drill from Harbor Freight that goes dull after about 3 uses, and some earplugs. So this right here is the scribe line for the back of the seat when it's in the all the way back position. That's as far forward as the Z can go. So that's going to show me down here, down below, that that's as far forward as I can go with the Z. Now, I rigged up this little piece right here that's 8 inches off the ground. So that's going to give me my ride height for the bottom of the frame rails. I want the angle of the down part of the Z to be at 18 degrees. So I have this app on my phone. It's actually meant for doing drive shafts and making sure you have the right pinion angle and everything. It's from Tremec. It's a really cool app, and you use your phone to find the angles. So then after finding the 18-degree angle here, I scribed it with the scribe to get a really fine line. And this pinch point right here, I wanted to make sure that it was exactly the same on both sides. So I scribed along the edge of the hole and then measured 3 3/4 inches using my square, and then came straight down here. So that gives me my cut line here. And the reason why I'm going straight across here, this is 5.5 inches, is because when this, if you cut straight along here and then you bend this up, it's going to be straight across here. Then the edge, this edge here is going to follow this 18 degrees. I was struggling really hard to do the math to make sure this was the right spot for the pike cut, and I thought to myself, why don't I just make a cardboard template? Because then I could actually see for sure whether or not it was going to be in the right spot. So following the 18-degree line with the edge of the cardboard template and lining it up down on the bottom to where it hits my little 8-inch marker, you can see that it's just about right. It's going to be just behind where the mark for the seat in the full back position is going to be. So if I take this template, I can make a straight line to the bottom of this door. And this is going to tell me how far forward I can go with the Z, how much room I have to play with. So using this template, now I can measure from this bolt right here, which is the center line of my axle. And I can come over here. And as you can see, I've got about 19 inches to play with before that Z starts to get into this door opening right here. And if you look down here, from the center line to where the seat back is coming up, that's about 19 inches. And as you see, there's plenty of room where that Z is going over the axle. So I think that's the winner right there.
About this rock and roll thing, think about your future, son, and what's that supposed to mean? It's alright, mom, I'm mad at you, mad at you. A mom's gonna do what a mom's gonna do, but you should know we won't stop until we're too old.
Alright, here we go. Nothing to it but to do it. No turning back now. Don't be scared.
We'll slow it down until we're 6 feet underground. If it's too loud and you're too old, if it don't rock, don't let it roll. Whoa, 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 whoa.
There it is. She's free.
About this rock and roll thing, future sign. Now what's that supposed to mean? It's alright, Mom, I'm mad at you.
So I got that just tacked in there for now. I got to do the other side, and then I'm going to put a cross member in there. You can see I kind of mismeasured a little bit, and it's right about 18 degrees. Pretty close to 18 degrees. I'm going to call that pretty much dead on. Before I finish welding this, I got to do the other side over there still, and then, like I said, put a cross member and square it all up, triple check my measurements, and then I can start welding this up, and then I'm going to put a plate around it. So my second attempt over here actually turned out way better than the other side over there. You can see how there's just a little bit of a gap, which is what you want. You want a little bit of a gap so that you can get good penetration with your welds. And that way when you grind it, you're not grinding all your weld off. The other side I'm going to have to do some fixing, but that's okay because I'm going to end up boxing everything and plating everything and making it super solid before I'm done here. So as you can see, we're right on 18 degrees, which is perfect. And it's just tacked in place for now because I need to get those frame rails that I ordered, which will come in a couple of days, so I can do the bottom and get everything all exactly lined up and where it needs to be before I actually start finish welding this thing and boxing it all in place.
I will eat their brains out one by one. Now back to the content.